So it's an incredible opportunity for us to hear from you on how you scale companies. And I think you've taken a $550 million company to an exit,
Yeah,
right?
so there's I'll give you the brief history.
Yeah.
So first startup was Unisware venture funded. It actually got bought by AOL.
Were you the founder?
No, it was very early though, sixth person.
Okay.
We were in the same fund as Foursquare. It was a really crazy time, hyper local space. After that, consulted for basically every startup in New York at the time. So Bloomberg, Blue Apron, all the companies at that. After that, I joined a company called ShopKeep. I was the first management hire on the engineering team. I was probably employee somewhere in the 20s. We built that company up, sold it for 550 million to Lightspeed Commerce. After that, I joined a company called Weedmaps. I saw he left. We actually took that company public.
What was it, a cannabis company?
Yeah, it was a cannabis technology company. It's the largest marketplace for cannabis. But the thing that we actually do that nobody knows is they do all the compliance work, right? So banking, distribution, logistics, compliance, et cetera, et cetera. Most businesses do not sell to the cannabis space. And so we got to build software for all of that. That team got that company up to about 1,000 people. We SPAC'd it, then de-SPAC'd it into 2021, hit about 1.5 billion, and it's just been on a slide since then. The industry is a mess. Took a year off or so between that, and now I'm at BuildOps. I was a CTO for about a year, and then I took on the AI role, Chief AI Officer role, and been really focused on transformation. Very, very focused both on internal and external transformation.
So
So
BuildOps is a unicorn, and it's in the what does it do? It's in the physical world, really.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
a really, really interesting business. So we are the largest software provider for the commercial contracting space. So our customers are the people building the TSMC fabs, the electricians, the plumbers, the contractors, the people pouring the concrete, so on and so forth. So we have Schneider Electric, one of the oldest. There's a lot going on with the business, and so we write software for them, right? So it's a very, very offline business, but our customers are all about transformation, right? They're running these large businesses. They want to figure out how to use AI. They want to have their electricians and their plumbers work better. We raised about $130 million last February, crossed the unicorn mark, based in LA, hiring, so on and so forth. So yeah, we sit at the very interesting inflection point of the physical space. So our customer employee is a HVAC electrician on the roof in Arizona in the summer trying to figure out how to fix a blower on a hospital to keep it running. That's what our customers employee does, and so we sell them software to do that
So
more
the
effectively.
employees of your customers do that.
Yes, that's correct. That's
Okay.
correct. Yep.
And what do you do for them?
That is a great question. Um, Two aspects of my role today: internal AI adoption. How do we get our internal teams, go to market sales, customer success, support, deployment, organizational, operational, engineering, use AI. So obviously Claude and so on and so forth. You all know the tools, so on and so forth. And then external, how do we get our customers to trust AI? How do we get a business that's been around for 150 years, third generation, not AI native, as about far from AI native as you can possibly be, to trust AI, to be able to take a picture of a part, look it up, purchase it, deliver it, install it automatically. So it's a very, very complex um, confluence of things. Mistrust with trust. They see Gen AI, they don't understand what it is, so on and so forth. So I spent a lot of time thinking about that problem space.
So is there a product angle to this, or is it primarily evangelism and services?
There's a ton of product work going on right now. AI automation, error correction, automated billing, automatic part finding, error correction, so on and so throughout the product stack. But really, we have product teams, a few hundred engineers, like 10 or 20 product people working on it, so on and so forth. My role is more evangelism in the internal side to get our teams to use AI, but I do spend quite a bit of time with our customers.
So who is your target customer?
It is a tradesperson organization operating in the commercial space. Usually it's a regional organization whose customers are primarily hospitals, data centers, Walmart, some of these big organizations who have very complex needs. One of our customers is a fruit company based in the area that we won't name. That they just build all their data centers for in Oregon. So it's very, very interesting in that way. Our customers are not residential. They don't do any work on your house. but they would do work on this building, as an example.
Because it's commercial.
Correct.
But then, so you have a platform product that's going to apply to all these different industries.
Yes.
And it comes to things like figuring out locations and visualization.
Yep, it's Salesforce-esque in a way. We use that example. Yeah, it's a CRM, it's invoicing, it's logistics, it's dispatching, it's routing, inventory management, compliance. We do some fire life safety work, so there's a lot of stuff like when somebody comes in and touches one of these, a piece of paperwork has to go to a fire marshal, right? And so there's a lot of that work as well. You can imagine it's a very, very complex piece of software. So when we talk about AI and the opportunity of AI to simplify it, to give it a much simpler interface to operate, to make so people can actually be doing their work, not worrying about the paperwork, not worrying about anything like that. It's a very interesting opportunity.
So how did they do it previously without BuildOps?
Well, most of them still use paper, still today. Some of the biggest, largest commercial electrical companies still run on paper. And they do. They just do dispatching on the pink and white sheets. So they show up, they get a ticket, the ticket's an actual piece of paper, they got in their truck, they drive to the location, and they work on the job.
And now you have the CRM that's going to do it, and it's based on AI, and your job is to go and tell these people to trust AI. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So how do you go about it? Do you have like a pitch deck that you go and say, pro AI, trust us? Or what do you do?
It was actually, you asked a great question, and I chuckled because it was one of my talking points about like, how do you explain outcome? Like, how do you spend all this money on AI, and how do you understand the outcome? So we talk about outcomes. How you're going to do a job faster and more effectively, how you're not going to get called back to the location because you're not going to make a mistake, how you're going to reduce the amount of inventory you have to keep on the truck because you can more intelligently stock the truck with what you need based on the jobs that you have that day. So on, and there's like a million of these things in this problem space. So that's what we talk about. We say, hey, it's going to cost you X to use by BuildOps. This is the result you're going to get. This is the outcome. This is the efficiency. This is the productivity. It's all about billable hours. How many hours can an electrician be billing a day versus filling out paperwork, versus restocking their truck, versus all this other operational overhead that they have to do.
Great. And then you have to prove that you are actually able to deliver on those promises.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
That's a wonderful, wonderful question. I wish the CFO was here. We work very closely with the office of the CFO for these organizations, the finance teams, and they can see it in their bottom line. They can see margin improvement. They can see billable hour improvement. They can see callback improvement, which is basically you go to fix an elevator. If they have to come back within X amount of days to fix it again, that's a callback, right? So that usually means they installed the wrong part, or they only partially solved the problem. How many times have you, if any of you lived in an apartment building, you're like, I need something fixed, and they come fix it, and they only have fixed it, and they got to come back again. So that happens quite a lot in these organizations, and so that's another area. So we show it generally as best as we can through the bottom line.
And so have you been with this organization from day zero, or when did you step in, and how was that transition?
Yeah, I actually joined fairly late. I joined between our A and B round. I was brought in to help scale the organization, the engineering team as the CTO. My role was hire, build out some offices, consolidate some technical decision making, work on that.
So you scaled it from 30 to 300 people?
About 150 to 200. It got up to, it hit about 250. Now it's kind of like floating around in that area. Yeah.
So what are some challenges when you scale like that?
Everything breaks at every inflection point, as everybody knows. I think the operational systems you run, the hiring, the reviews, the monitoring, the management, each of those functions breaks at each inflection point, 20 people, 80 people, 120, 180, 200, so on and so forth. I think it's just really important to understand that as you're building a team, the way that you operate it at each level is different, and that's going to change, and to have some humble pie on the way to learn that, hey, what you're doing today isn't going to work tomorrow.
So do you have like trusted leaders that you hired from previous jobs, and or how do you go about it? What are the ways in which you go and scale an organization like that? Are you just like hiring off the web or from grad school?
Just picking random people off the street.
Streets?
Yeah, that's right. Now, actually I have a kind of like an internal working model where I want roughly 50% of my people to be homegrown and 50% to be brought in, right? And so obviously impossible to do, but generally guidelines wise, you want people that you trust, that you worked with before. You want people that you're bringing in for a specific expertise. Say it's a financial system, you need somebody with a financial systems background, or Gen AI, to use that example. But then otherwise, you want to build people up, right? You want to bring the people that have been there for longer than you, so on and so forth. You want to identify those people, grow those people, mentor those people. It's really important. I'm excited to be here to help mentor, right? And so that's a key part of this. You want a blend of those three things. You want new, fresh blood, specific expertise, and then you want people that you grow.
And then in your function as the chief AI officer, there's, I think it's bit like pre-sales, I guess, in some ways, where you're kind of like, like kind of telling them the
I always
technology.
dreamed to be pre-sales engineer. Now, but it is, right? It's a salesmanship. It's a marketing
It's a
thing. It's growth
salesmanship.
marketing. It's a lot of those things.
So do you have a team of people who help you?
Nope.
It's just you.
Just me. But I think it's nice. I sat in the CTO seat, and I have 4 times before that, right? I've done the job. I've been the VP of engineering. I've been a director of engineering. I've been an engineering manager. I've been a senior engineer. I've done the job the whole way up the chain throughout my career, right? So I can sit in front of a room full of engineers based on their level, their experience, where they're at in their career, and really have a conversation with them at their level to explain to them, this isn't going to take your job. This is empowering to you. You should be afraid. It's okay. We're continuous learners. That's why we do software engineering. That's why we're product people, so on and so forth, right? And so, no, I don't have a team. I work with technical teams generally, so it's a little easier to have these conversations. But when I'm talking to the sales team about how you can use an agent to help with doing lead gen, right? How do you explain it to them? How do you explain that, I don't have to dial for dollars anymore? There's a system that can do that for them. How do you make them see the outcome of make more money with less work? Very exciting, right? And so it is a sales-like effort. But luckily I have some experience and been around enough people to have that conversation.
And it's highly technical as well. You can't just be in a sales role. How do you stay on top of all the new technologies coming out in AI?
You neurotically look at X. No, I actually did a podcast like a week ago, and during that podcast, I actually made the joke, by the time that we hang up on this, something new is going to launch that's going to change everything. Like in the 2 hours we're going to sit here in this podcast, it's going to change. It actually did happen, which was hilarious. Auto research came out at the time. So it's really important that you as the leader are the expert in this space, right? I can't go into a room and pretend to be an AI transformation person if I don't have a handle on what's top of market, what's best of market, what's the most important thing, what's the most exciting thing. So it's really just do a lot of research, spend a lot of time reading. I spent a considerable amount of time just keeping track on Discords and on Twitter and X, whatever it's called now. And just talking to my friends too, talking to your community, your network groups like this, where you just hear what people are working on, what they're doing, how they're thinking about problems. And so it's just really a multi-channel approach. But I think a lot of you are lifelong learners. I think that's a key part of being an entrepreneur, part of being a product person.
I think also that this chief AI officer role is something that's come up quite recently, and the role will probably evolve. It's a bit like perhaps what happened with cloud. Cloud used to be on every CIO's agenda, and then they'd go and hire this, cloud expert, or they themselves have become the cloud architect. And then now it's just been absorbed into the CIO or the CTO function. Do you think something similar is going to happen for this AI leader role?
100%. I think it's going to split. I'm currently viewing it as it's going to split into 2 roles. One's going to go back to the traditional CTO path, like very technical, organizational driven. There's going to be like the chief R&D officer or something along those lines, which is really the frontier model. They sit at the front tip of the spear as it relates to the technology of the models and the technology itself. Then there's the people who have to go operationalize it and execute it, and that'd be the CTO and so on and so forth. So I don't know if the chief AI officer title is long for the world. I think it is like a temporary stopgap as people try to figure out where it's going to fit into organizations, because I think the reality is everybody has to be an AI officer. Everybody's got to be a chief AI officer to do your job, right? You got to know what the tools are, how to use them, how to get the most out of them, right? Until that happens, much like cloud, it took a long time for that to happen for cloud as well. Until that happens, there's going to be this functional role.
And then how do you view yourself in that role? As in, you've taken up a position which is very influential and powerful at this point, but it's going to transform to be something else, and you know it, and you still don that hat, right? So are you like thinking ahead and planning to get back into the CTO cycle? What does that look like for you sitting in your seat?
It's a great question. I actually don't know. Kind of taking it one day at a time right now because things are changing and moving so fast. I think being a CTO is a wonderful job. It's operationally intensive. It's complex. It's an organizational role. It's got its challenges. It's positive as and its negatives. Everybody who wishes they were a CTO has never been one. So I always like to jokingly say, the CPO roles, there's the CIO roles. There's a lot of opportunity out there for someone with my experience. So I don't know, to be honest. I know that the role is academically a stopgap between two other roles. I don't know what those two other roles are, just to be totally transparent, right? And that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay operating in that kind of like liminal space between two things for now, because it is very exciting to be that tip of the spear, right? It's very, very cool to be able to have conversations like we're having right now that couldn't have had a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
And I think you're also in that space, which is very critical, I think, where there's a lot of transformation happening in industries which were not previously even touched by digital transformation. And right, isn't that what you're saying? Like even today, there's paper processes and that you're automating it.
Yeah, 100%.
And there's many other industries that we're seeing when we invest that are getting transformed in that way.
Yeah, we're seeing it's really interesting. Industrial automation's a very interesting space. I mean, agriculture. There's a couple different industries that are the computer vision opportunity. There's just a massive amount of transformations happening outside of just even making software write itself, right? There's a plenty more going on. I think every industry is going to be touched by AI in some way, whether gen or computer vision or text, voice, structuring data, so on and so forth. So it's a very, very I would say that this role is giving me more opportunities and less because it's opening the door towards I can go work in some other AI function after this, so on and so forth, right? So it's very cool. It's very open ended, and I think if you don't have a little bit of self confidence, which I don't, I have a little bit of self confidence, I would feel worse about this. But knowing that my experience, there's going to be open doors in a lot of different industries after.
Yeah, you're very highly technical with the credibility of a long history of working as CTO and an engineering leader. So I can see why that would be the case. But then, where do you see the world going next? Looking at all the latest technologies and evangelizing it, are you foreseeing anything that many of us are not seeing just yet?
I think the initial wave of shifts is kind of ending, and now we're moving into like deeper automation. Obviously, agents is the hot thing, but I think small language models. Powering agents is going to be very interesting. How do you forward deploy a small language model in a specific case that's what I was asking about. How you think about generalization on the hardware side, right? You can generalize a model, you can shrink it down, make it small, you can run it on device, you can do it at the edge. How do you then put that into a 50 million square foot manufacturing facility, right? There's a very, very interesting, very unique problem. So there's a lot of areas that are going to change. I think the current flight of huge language models running in the cloud is going to collapse into a much more on-device local work, which I'm very excited about. I think there's a huge opportunity for edge models and so on and so forth.
So what's an overhyped idea in AI right now?
Man, so many things. I think job description is a big one, right? There's a lot of fear. I'm an optimist. I'm a technology optimist. I think there's going to be job shifts. There's going to be changes, and typist was thrown out there before. Switchboard operators thrown out the board. I think there will be job changes. I don't think there'll be as much disruption. So I think that's overhyped.
And one leadership principle that you never compromise on.
Always be honest.
Mm-hmm. And biggest mistakes that people make when they scale teams?
Trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. To say the processes and the systems that work today are going to work at 100 engineers or 200, 300.
And what's advice that you received as a leader?
The smartest person in the room isn't always the loudest.
The smartest person in the room isn't always the loudest. Thank you for that. Yes. A company implementing AI well today?
BuildOps?
Other than BuildOps.
Roll AI seems pretty cool.
It's phenomenal.
Very cool product.
Yeah. And if you were not working in tech, what would you be doing?
I'd be a sailor.
A sailor. Well, big round of applause to Duncan. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And Duncan's come out from Los Angeles to spend the day with us, and so thank you for that.
I also serve.
And you also surf, so you have a buddy there, Scott.
I'm also in LA.
Oh, you're also in LA. You guys should go surf.
Come down to Trestles. Come surf in San Clemente.
Send us pictures.
Done.
Thank you.
Thanks.